Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, I mean, Bitcoin basically behaving exactly as I figured it would. Just talking about the 4 hour chart here, you guys. This is what I'm going to start on today. Um, you guys, as far as the micro trend goes, and I mean, kind of when we reversed back at this level at about 95K, because that is currently our lower high on the trend that I'm interested in. However, there was also this level here that I was talking about in the last week or so. And my reasoning for that is just since we started this downtrend, this would have been the last time that we had a low and a lower low. So I was treating this wick here basically right around 84.1K, somewhere in there. That's what I've been treating as basically the micro trends lower high. So I was figuring that if the bears are going to remain, very strong, very much so in control, I thought there was a good chance we get rejected here. I also had a 5 minute Stuber lined up with the swing fail, and as well a 1 minute Stuber lined up with the 5 minute Stuber inside this, which I'll get into in a little second, and just how that can be a very beneficial way of looking at things when you have so many different time frames lining up like that. But yeah, as far as the micro trend goes, this is basically the level I was watching, especially after we ended up getting this rejection here. I was very interested in shorting the retest of this level. And that's exactly why I'm in a short right now. But honestly, even if we break this level, I'm not going to be bullish. I will be open to the idea that I think, it would make a lot of sense at that point if we do set a higher high, that we would end up going into my bigger Stuber fib pocket. And you can see that I have that pulled from 95K to, actually, do I have to change? Or sorry, that is actually my bullish one. My bearish one here for the actual trend, since here would be our low and this is our lowest low, right? As far as ever since we topped in January, these are basically our last two lows, right? Obviously, this is the lowest. And before that, if we zoom out a little bit, we can see that was our previous low. So that is my trigger to pull a Stuber fib. So that is basically where I would be pulling my fib. I mean, from here, technically that was a 786. That was not an actual Stuber fib, you guys. That's something I want to be clear about. That's just pulled from a random point like that. However, that being said, I am going to pull it all the way to the bottom here because this is our actual lower low. So if we were to get some sort of a bounce, this is where I would start to be interested in looking for short setups, and that would be around 91K. The thing is, if the bears are going to stay in total control and be very quick to pull the trigger on something like this, it's very possible that we don't even get that bounce, especially because of the bullish scenario, the bullish setup that has already played out with this, you guys. I was talking about this before as well, that on our downtrend before, we had a similar structure, right? We had our low, lower high. We ended up breaking that level here. So that's where I start looking for a bullish Stuber fib, because we have broke this downtrend right here, the immediate one. So that's where I had my fibs pulled something like this. And like I was saying just before starting the stream here, we hit the 786 there. We hit the first two profit taking levels there. Everybody right at this level at the 214 on social media started calling for, oh, the bear trap is confirmed. And they were saying that. They were literally typing that message while they were getting blindsided by a bull trap. And that's where I love Stuber fibs, because since they're so close to those breakout levels, they act as perfect bull traps and bear traps, depending which way you're looking at things, right? So the fact that we already had that play out and we hit my target once made me... basically, I'm a lot less bullish, and I wasn't even bullish at that point. I was just looking at an obvious bounce level, and it played out how I expected. But from there, the fact that we came back down to these levels, the fact that we never got higher and set a higher high, in that case, I would have been looking for a bullish Stuber fib pull from here, because we would have had a higher high here. But we never got that. We just got rejected. We printed this, we reversed a little bit earlier. I'm not going to call it a lower high just because we never had confirmed structure at that point for how I like to analyze when I'm looking for range pulls and stuff like that. However, it was obviously a sign of weakness right as we were trading up into resistance once again. And even just finding where we found resistance here, obviously just treating that level, and it lines up perfectly with that fib pull I currently have, right? So just an important level in general. But yeah, so basically, if we do end up bouncing from here, I personally am expecting a lower high rejection somewhere around this purple box, maybe even up towards 95. You know, even worth watching for a swing fail again. If we get some sort of a liquidity grab, I would love to short the retest of that level if we do get up there. But we're just going to have to see what happens from here because, again, I've been seeing so much weakness on this trend, and there's so many concerns I have about this market right now. I'm not trying to... Oh, the stream wasn't starting. Oh, the stream should be going now. I'm not trying to scare anybody here. I just think that it's important as traders to look at things with a very level head and accept that anything can happen. And guys, I have been very open about how I felt about this weekly chart for quite some time now. And I actually pointed it out. I just found it on my Twitter, but I warned about that in the pro signals here, you guys. On December 23rd, I had warned about the fact that the RSI was lining up for this perfect signal here. It's a very powerful reversal signal that I have back tested a lot. And the reason why I was able to hold on to such a bearish feeling, even though there was such a bullish echo chamber on social media and stuff like that as we approached all-time highs again, the fact that I backtested years of data of this exact strategy made me find it very easy to stick to my guns on that, and why I've been playing the short side of this very well. I was ready for it, right? I was not blindsided by it. I'm not panicking now because everything is kind of going as according to plan. Basically, I was looking for this little dip below support there, followed by some sort of a rejection with a bearish RSI like this. And this is what ended up happening, right? We end up getting our RSI, comes down away from overbought conditions, ends up retesting that level for a perfect bearish divergence. We did end up breaking just below this support level and then ended up getting that pullback and rejection. So it's just a very specific reversal pattern that I love playing. But again, it just comes down to backtesting and why I think that everybody should do it, right? I mean, everybody says it, but it's so important to do your homework like that, you guys, so that you have some sort of an understanding what your probabilities are. Because, you know, I can sit here and explain my strategy, how I trade it, but if you're not seeing things the exact same way or whatever, then it doesn't matter, right? I mean, if you misanalyze one thing, or if you treat one thing slightly different, or just look over something, whatever, you may be playing it completely different. So you want to make sure that any strategy you're going to actually put money behind and trade with your account, you want to have a back-tested strategy. And I'm not just saying someone else back-testing, but you need to make sure it works for you, because we could have the same charts, the same, I say this all the time, but the same trend lines, the same fibs, the same indicators, the same support resistance levels, and I guarantee we would still trade this market completely different. So you need to find what works for you. You need a system that you yourself can replicate and just practice over and over, and then trade over and over, right? So just a little bit of a rant there, but just because I think it's so important, and why I've been holding this bias, and why I'm continuing to hold this bias at this point. Honestly, you guys, for Bitcoin to change my mind at this point, I truly believe, and I know I said this in my last stream, but the first thing that's going to make me actually get bullish, and I know not everyone's a fan of trend lines, but since this is a very specific back-tested pattern that I play, as soon as we end up breaking this divergence line on my RSI, I'm going to get very bullish again. And until that happens, I just can't flip my macro bias. I hate to say it, you guys. I could be very wrong on this, and I would be very happy to be wrong on this, but my gut tells me that we are actually in a bear market, or we're at least going to see some sort of bear market type of price action. Again, happy to be wrong on that, and again, as soon as one of these gets invalidated, as soon as this trend line gets invalidated, I will switch my tune. I promise you that. But until that happens, I have my concerns. You know, I've had my concerns about this weekly chart since late 2024. And more recently, you guys, is I really don't like this monthly chart. And those of you who were with me last week, this will look very familiar. But basically, anytime we've failed one of these, failed or broken or whatever in either direction, when we've broke these levels, it has actually flipped the cycle. And this would be the fourth time in a row if it happens. That does not mean that it has to happen. But previously, in these previous few market cycles, I mean, back here, right, we had this this resistance back here, or basically this block back here. We ended up breaking it. We flipped that resistance into support, and it was bull market on. Here we got one, ended up flipping that from support to resistance. I mean, just confirming the bear market. Here we end up flipping this one from resistance into support here, and it was bull market on. Now, so far, we have flipped this one from support into resistance. So yes, again, it does not have to play out the same, but just understand that I know that it feels fundamentally, because you've been told for so long that if Trump gets in, that it's guaranteed bull market parabola on. Understand that that is not necessarily the thing. That feels too easy to me. There's nothing strategic about aping into all-time highs with trillions of dollars. If anything, when I see that smart money wants something so badly, I when they're very bullish on something like that, I'm personally a little bit bearish on the price, because why would they want to pay all-time highs? They're going to do whatever they can to get it cheaper if they want it that badly. And also understand that every time a bull market flips into a bear market, it's when fundamentals feel the strongest. It's when FOMO is the highest. It's when you start seeing bigger and bigger entities aping into things. It's that sort of thing that is a bit of a red flag, right? So again, I am very happy to be wrong on this. We break that weekly RSI line that I was talking about, and I will absolutely celebrate the fact that a lot of my altcoins are going to start recovering, hopefully. But as it stands right now, I just can't bring myself to feel FOMO right now. I haven't felt FOMO since we tested 110K. I've basically, as soon as this divergence played out, and also the Wave Master getting that reversal signal, just so many red flags, you guys, I just instantly pumped the brakes a little bit. And it's not even at this point that I thought it was bear market on. It's really the monthly that's making me think that's even just a possibility. Again, doesn't have to be, it's just a possibility. But even just looking at this, I was just thinking, you know what? I am going to at least pump the brakes on being a moon boy and, you know, buying meme coins and buying all sorts of aping into everything that sounds bullish. I just kind of pumped the brakes on that kind of thing and started trading the downside a little bit. And you know what? I'm happy that I've done those steps, just because I had the warning there. And you know what? My gut was right on that. So I just, until that changes, basically bearish until proven otherwise is how I feel. You know, if I end up not catching the bottom, let's say we reverse from here and we do something like this, you know what? I can start longing pullbacks. That's totally fine. I don't really feel bad if I end up missing the exact bottom, because you know what? There's a lot of people who are buying into everything in their bullish echo chamber if they just heard, you know, things that they wanted to hear. And people were absolutely aping into everything, thinking, yeah, this is it. We're going for our blue sky breakout. Actually, more so even here, because we broke this high. Everyone just aping into things, starting to long excessively. A lot more leverage being used by the average person. I know even like friends of mine that aren't really about crypto at all, don't really look at crypto all too much, started phoning me about XRP. I got 4 phone calls the same day about XRP specifically. That was a huge red flag to me. You know, friends in the stock market talking about wanting to use leverage and options and stuff like that because it seemed like easy money. There's just a lot of red flags, you guys. And to go with the charts, I mean, I don't really care what's happening fundamentally. If fundamentals are going to matter for the price of Bitcoin, we are going to see the chart reflect that. And as it stands right now, all that it happens, like the way I'm looking at things, you guys, again, just another bear market feel to me here, is that things, bullish things and bullish things in the markets, bullish things around the government. There's so many bullish things constantly being rammed down our throat telling us that this is mega bullish for crypto. And the price keeps setting lower highs, and we keep getting weaker and weaker bounces. We keep setting lower lows. you know, the fact that there's bullish news and the price keeps dropping to lower levels, that's exactly how my PTSD of previous bear markets felt. I kept feeling like I should be dollar cost averaging into things because something bullish would happen in the news, and then all those hopes and dreams would get crushed, you know, a couple days later. And it just very much feels the same right now. Again, very happy to be wrong on that, but oh, there it is, Adrian. I never had an order set, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's just basically how I feel about the markets right now. Even on the shorter time frames right now, the 5 minutes showing weakness right now. So we did have this nice little bounce, but notice it was a slow grind up, and notice it's looking to me like we are losing this micro higher low. So what I mean by that is here, obviously we had our little pause, so I'll consider that a high, higher low. Again, micro analyzing, this is very much so the micro trend. But just notice on this micro trend, that's exactly what happened, right? High, higher low, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and broken. So even on a very micro level like this, just understand how basic market structure shows itself on all sorts of time frames and how well it gets respected even in something like this, right? And I think that's very important structure to be able to recognize, because at this point, this is where I can now consider that, hey, this looks like a pivotal point to me just because we had this little structure break. This is where I can start now pulling my fib, right? I can start pulling, looking for a Stuber fib if I want to short some sort of a retest here. This is where I can start pulling it, right? I couldn't before because I never had the structure to back that up. But now, and yes, it's obviously a very small range, but it could still keep going down, right? Just basically at this point, I'm just going to chase the price with this. And it is what it is. If this is the type of fib that you pull, and yes, it's a very small range, obviously. So, you know, you'd be looking at something like this, getting your laddered entries, 786, 8861, just kind of laddering up all the way up towards the invalidation. But if it plays out just the 786, 886, you'd be looking at this kind of a play, followed by your first take profit. Yeah, the 0.5 fib is really close. The 0.214 fib is also quite close. It's a small range, but the invalidation is also very tight on a setup like that, right? So ideally, I always play with half my position. I like to play the range first and then hope for a breakout with the second half. But maybe if you get into a nice position with a nice tight stop on something like this, then maybe you're willing to just risk it and just hope YOLO and it just nukes from there. But just understand then if you end up not taking profits at the proper levels and you get stopped out, it's not the strategy's fault. It's just that you were looking at too small of a range for what you wanted to play, right? But yeah, so this is basically the kind of structure I look for. And now if however low the price goes, I'll just keep chasing it with a fib. I'm already in a short because, again, last night I was already short. Actually, this one's from weeks ago. It's this one. This was, like I was saying, on the 4 hour, we were getting to my micro swing fail level. And then on the 5 minute, we actually printed this Stuber fib here, because here's where we lost structure, right? We had a high, higher low, and we ended up breaking that level. So that's where I pull a fib from up here down to where we bottom. And that's my fib, right? And it just turns out that the 886 lined up perfectly with that swing fail, this red line here. The 886, so we now have a swing fail on the 4 hour. We have a structure break followed by a Stuber fib rejection on the 5 minute. And on top of that, if I really zoom into the 1 minute, we also had something similar, a high, higher low. We end up breaking that, and look where we end up pulling back to. We end up basically getting right to the 786 pretty much. So a lot of overlapping bearish signals happening at the same time last night, and that's exactly why I'm short from 84,000 there, is because there was just a lot of things overlapping. So it's nice to have that confluence of, yeah, you know what? I'm looking at this. I'm looking at playing this like a 4-hour trade. So almost more of a swing setup, but then being able to dial it into a micro time frame and being able to get more of a scalp type entry. So I was more so looking at the 5-minute rather than the 1-minute. But yeah, absolutely beautiful there. I actually had an order up here as well. I think it was just below 85K. Obviously, it never hit, and we ended up hitting my 0.5 fib overnight. Earlier today, ended up hitting my 214. Also, when we ended up breaking this micro trend, as just in case, because that was a little bit of a warning that, hey, things may reverse from here. So I ended up closing some more there. I have about a third of my position still running at this point because, you know what, like I said, for all those reasons why I'm still quite bearish on the longer time frames, I really want to be in a position that just turns into a nice runner. And already, I mean, this position has played out beautifully, obviously. So I'm hoping it just continues to run with that last third. I would love to take another short somewhere if I can see one. That's where I was. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Adrian, did you catch it? I know we were talking about it right before the stream. Can I explain what a Stuber fib is in like 30 seconds? It's a 786 to 886 fib pocket with certain structure breaks. So it's not just from a random pivot point, but there's certain structure that goes with that. But yeah, it's taken me about 1.5 years to kind of fine tune. So to explain it in 30 seconds, it would be a little tough. I mean, I guess that explains what it is, just not perfecting it, but that's the basics of it. All right, let me catch up on a little bit of chat here. Webby, did I answer your question about the 4-hour there? When a 4-hour time frame is broken, when do you decide it is retested? Like also on the 4-hour or just a tap? Hopefully I'm understanding this correct. But for example, this was a swing fail setup. So that's not a Stuber fib, but this, for example, the fact that we have a low, lower, low, lower, high, then so that is where the structure was broken. So that's where I would be looking for a retest of this level. And then it totally depends from there what your risk tolerance is, what kind of a trader you are, right? Because at that point is where I would start looking into more the 5-minute or the 1-minute. But if you're more of a lower leverage swing trader, that might be just something you would be more willing to ladder in a bunch of entries up towards your invalidation to try and pull your average entry up a little bit. But yeah, it depends on your trading style, right? We all trade completely different. So I typically use higher leverage and trade on shorter time frames. I'll still look at the 4-hour levels like that, but then I'll zoom in, kind of like what I was talking about with this swing fail was on the 4-hour, but then it also lined up with a Stuber fib on the 5-minute. Hopefully that answered your question. If we are in a bear market, is that for altcoins, or do you think alts will have their day? Honestly, I have no idea how to feel about the altcoins. I feel like this alt season got completely fucked by you know who. Sucked up a lot of liquidity out of a lot of altcoins, and also I shouldn't actually just blame him, honestly. Also, when Pump Fund launched, that was it. I mean, with the whole meme coin super cycle that everyone was super horny about, that totally devastated the altcoin market as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know if we'll have the same kind of altcoin season. I know there was phases in this market cycle where altcoins went nuts for a while, but like to actually pick an altcoin that did well for the entire cycle, it's tough. You know, there wasn't too many that did, you know, well for the whole time. I mean, well, yeah, obviously there was some, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if altcoins are going to have, you know, some sort of crazy altcoin cycle or season. But typically, when a bull market ends, you do end up with some sort of a crazy altcoin season right at the end. So I'm not ruling it out. It's just, this cycle is weird. And everybody said this cycle would be different. It's different in a way that was different from what everyone was thinking. But I truly feel like this season or this cycle is different. And I don't know if altcoins are going to do what they've done in previous cycles. Obviously, there's the odd one that, like, and guys, just to make fun of myself here and to explain what I mean by, you know, just how dangerous altcoins and meme coins have been this cycle. Some of you have heard this before already, but I caught a 70x on one meme coin. I caught an 80x on one. I caught another 12x on that same one. I think I caught an 8x on it again. Like, and I can say with confidence, my meme coin wallets are down. You know, even after all of those over 10x's, damn near 100x's, I can say with confidence my meme coin wallet is down. So that just goes to show you how difficult it is to actually, you know, pick one that's going to win for a long time. I don't know. Maybe there's some of you in here who are good at trading meme coins and stuff like that. I'm personally not. I'm not good at, you know, being with the trend of following communities and stuff like that. I'm very much so more into the chart side of things. And when they are getting rugged left and right, I mean, the charts only go so far. Which exact videos in the academy do I explain how to do the Stuber Fib strategy? Most of them I just basically go through examples and kind of show how I do them live. There is this one. If you go to my Twitter, I have one pinned. That's just a very basic video though. I do have a more in-depth one, but it is a private video. That one I go more into the structure, how I recognize ranges changing, stuff like that. I go a little more in depth, but that would be my basic one that's open to the public. Oh, I'm disappointed I missed that. See, this is why I probably should have set orders when we were trading right here rather than just, oh, I'll catch that in a few minutes. Yeah, whoops. My fib settings. If you just mean the levels, they would just be the ones on here, like the 886, 786, 5, and 214. That one's not valid. Sometimes the Algo Master, I know a lot of you guys are probably familiar with this, but since you guys obviously have these indicators, the Algo Master, if you go into the settings, there is, for auto fibs, you can do fib types. You can choose Stuber fibs. I've changed the colors for mine and I've made the numbers match up and stuff, but they should be automatic. I think they're all one color, but that is an option to help you with them. Now, understand that they're not always correct. It's important to be able to recognize them yourself, so you can treat this as more of confluence than anything. Actually, you know what? I would agree with this fib pull. At the time, yeah, so it obviously pulled a fib from here down to here. And yeah, it would have, I would consider that hitting the first target before it reversed. So yeah, I think that was a valid fib pull, but obviously it got invalidated since, and it hasn't updated, so it's there, and that's not an actual setup now. So that's always something to consider. And since it is a lagging indicator with printing a little bit later, sometimes the setup has already played out, and you guys know how I feel about that, is that I typically only like to take the setup the first time. Sometimes I'll take it more, but depending how I feel on the market in general. But I generally like the first time testing those levels, and sometimes the indicator will print them late when it's already happened. And since I'm used to them and I trade them all the time, I just kind of look at it and I'm like, oh, that's not valid anymore. But that's just something to be a little bit cautious of, and why it's important to understand how to pull them yourself as well. So far, no retest with this guy. Ooh, AI16Z, you say? I see what you're seeing. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't feel as confident in that one. And my reasoning for that is, so this would have been the one on the micro trend, because obviously we had our low, lower, low, lower, high. This obviously would have been one that got invalidated. And since the micro trend got invalidated, I mean, when did we start this? We might end up going right back to the top of the range, in which case it could still have some room to fly. Now, okay, here's some added confluence from the indicators. This is one thing that I like to do as well. Since the trend master right now has a lower buy signal printed, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but assuming that we get a lower sell signal as well. So I'm willing to pull a fib since we have this signal here. Let's just ditch this. Then I can pull the fib from the top point between the two, which is the exact fib pull I'm guessing you're talking about, because I know how you look at the charts and I agree with what you're seeing. It's just I do have my concerns about that range. But if this downtrend is going to continue, because since back here we obviously have lower buy signal, lower sell signal, lower buy signal, to be determined, but we are trading right into resistance right now. So if the downtrend is going to continue here, I wouldn't really expect us to go too much higher. So yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take a little one with you. So I'm starting a small one here. And then I don't think I'm even going to add on the 886, but I would love to add up here. Set a couple more laddered entries. Or, whoops, not that one. Just shy of here, and then another one up here maybe with stop loss just above a little bit. Yeah, I'm willing to take. Yeah, I'm willing to take a little one with you. Yeah, you like a bit more risk. We probably like a very similar amount of risk. It's scarier to pull the trigger when you're the guy live. But no, I totally agree with what you're seeing here. Like that's it's an obvious structure point. And if the downtrend is going to continue, I would assume that it would kick into gear pretty quick here. Oh yeah, sorry. If you were wondering how to change your settings on your Fib tool, yeah, as long as you bring up, and also something to consider is I'm using the Fibonacci retracement tool, not the Fibonacci extension tool, so that may change things a little bit as well. But yeah, then you can just double click on it. If you double click on any of your Fib lines, that will bring you to your settings. Notice that Bitcoin has started a little bit of a micro downtrend. I'm actually going to chase the price with a confirmed lower high would currently be right there, because again, it looks like micro analyzing, but we got below this, right? So we got a little bounce here, setting our lower low, and now we've broke below it slightly. So if we close above this red candle here, I'm more open to the idea of reversing to the upside. Even if it's just a lower high, something like that. But that's just showing how, just micro analyzing the structure on the way, on the micro trend. So that's how I would be looking at it. Because often, guys, when I get myself into a scalp position, that's another way that I'll take profits quite often, is I'll set a trigger order with like half of my position or quarter of my position or however much I want to reduce it by. And I will just leave a little bit of wiggle room beyond structure, something like that. So let's just say theoretically I got into a trade. Well, let's just pretend I got in up here for whatever reason. Obviously didn't. At that point, if I was willing to start taking profits, basically I would have, part of my stop loss somewhere up here, so that if we end up breaking the immediate structure, I would want to start locking something in, pay my fees, reduce my risk, all those sorts of things. So quite often that's how I will take partial profits, is just by following the microstructure like that. Do I ever factor in divergences into my trade setups? The one that I always talk about on the weekly, that is basically the very specific divergence I love playing on all time frames. So if we have the RSI, for example, going from overextended conditions down to regular territory like that, with either a double top, a Stuber fib, whatever, I love using that as confluence in a trade setup zone. If I'm thinking, I'm thinking things are looking weak, I think I want to short, I see that kind of a setup, just because that's such a powerful reversal signal. Not that it plays out every time, but the risk reward on those types of setups, like when they reverse, they often reverse very hard. And this weekly chart is a perfect example of that. This had nothing to do with tariffs, in my opinion. This was all, yes, those things were basically, they pushed the price for sure, but the chart was already predicting that we were due. It's just basically the way to look at this divergence, and it would work the same on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, whatever, right? Is basically, okay, so you couldn't break this resistance here. You're going to retest it. Everyone's getting bullish, but you're retesting it with significantly less strength. At what, like, why would you assume at that point that it's going to smash through with way less strength when it couldn't the first time? So that's how that divergence looks, because right when we're overextended, that just means there's a shit ton of buying strength, right? It's tons of buying pressure when we're up there. And to see it drop off like that and try and test the same resistance, there was just, I really had no faith in us really breaking out there. So I love seeing that on the 1 minute too. I will take that trade setup every single time. It's such a tight invalidation on something like that. Yeah, on the 1 minute as well, Chaos. Like I like that trade setup on all time frames. So yes, if for example, ooh, actually that is a little nasty reversal sign there on the Wave Master. It's too bad this one never went further, just to make it even more obvious. But let's just pretend this actually did something like this. Came down and did this, and then we got something, well, I shouldn't even say that, let's just say something like that, while the price did something like that. I would very much so be very interested in shorting that setup, because I would have that same divergence lining up with my level. And whether that was, like, I would be looking at it as a double top, a Stuber fib, whatever, just basically some sort of a reversal zone, some sort of a resistance zone, so most likely laddering into it as a Stuber fib and a double top. But yeah, basically if we get that big divergence lining up with a bear setup like that, yeah, absolutely, that is added confluence that I would take that trade setup every time, basically. Hopefully that answered it. 15 minute. See, actually, here you go. Now, this isn't a Stuber fib. On the 5 minute, it probably would be, but on the 15, we never actually broke this lower high here. However, we got down to the 786, and look at this. That's that same, but the opposite divergence, right? From way overextended to the downside up to regular territory. So again, you're coming down to the same resistance level or the same support level, but you have significantly more strength or significantly less selling pressure. So why would you break the support with less selling pressure, right? That's funny. This is, again, going to be microanalyzing, and I missed this, but look at this. I'm sure you guys know what I'm going to say right now, but we had this low. We set a lower low. Oh, what do you think happened next? Basically a perfect 786, 886 retest, and have come down to the first target already. So yes, again, obviously it's a very small range here, but just to show you how often these things happen, right? How the price is so drawn to those 786, 886 retraces after a structure break. And that's exactly why I love that setup. Here's a perfect example that even on such a small time frame, you still see it happen all the time. I mean, really, it happened before that. Look, it happened right here. It happened there because we had our low. We ended up breaking below it. Whatever, carried on. Came to this 886. Then we set a new lower low. Where do we end up coming back to? 786, 886. You start to see them all over the place. Because you guys, obviously, the more you zoom out, there's you're always in a range that's inside a bigger range, that's inside a bigger range, inside a bigger range, etc., etc., right? So that's where, again, it depends what kind of a time frame you're looking at playing, what kind of a range, the size of a range that you're playing. Like, the structure and the way I pull fibs and everything, it works the same on, you know, all time frames, all assets, all, you know, depending what size of range you want to look at, whatever. Structure is structure. It doesn't matter if it's, because I understand that I'm often looking at the 5 minute and the 1 minute, and not everybody wants to do that, and therefore they don't want to watch or whatever. But understand the 1 minute and the 5 minute and the 1 hour and the 4 hour and the daily and the weekly, the structure acts the same. And that's exactly why I was so bearish on this weekly chart, you guys, is because if this was a 1 minute chart or a 5 minute chart, I would be shorting the shit out of this pattern. And for me to turn a blind eye to it and say, no, that won't happen on the weekly. If anything, the weekly carries more weight to it than a 1 minute or a 5 minute does. So that's what, you know, so many people got blindsided here, but it was in the charts. I mean, I know a lot of people want to blame what's happening in the whole world economy right now and stuff, but understand the charts were warning us. Play the charts, not the news, not tweets. We don't trade on tweets. That's not what we do here. Oh, AI, we did get up to the 886. I never did have a laddered entry there. Oh, speaking of that, did I even set my other entry? Okay. There we go. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this one. Already forgot I was in this position, for frick's sakes. So currently retail almost 65%. Let's actually give this a refresh. See, look how much the fear has gone away in this market with this little bounce, you guys. The fear's only at a 45 right now. We were at like a 10. I think we were at a 10 a week or two ago. So very quickly, people are getting FOMO and not being scared anymore. We also have a lot of retail longing still. That's a lot of fuel, in my opinion, for the fire, not for the rocket. Ooh. Yep. I don't know. The fact that, you know, a lot of people sound bearish, but I think it's more so that people are bullish and disappointed with what's happening. Because we still see retail trying to long the shit out of this. Everyone's still saying that any random tweet is going to change the game, and that, you know, all these bullish fundamentals are happening. I do agree that there is some bullish fundamentals happening, but you have to understand there is constantly bullish fundamentals happening around crypto, and that goes for bear markets as well. And yeah, I don't know. To me, it just, the market doesn't feel great. Everyone was talking about this monthly chart until about a month ago. Nobody wanted to bring it up anymore when we got a big red engulfing structure breaking monthly candle. Everyone shut up about it after that, except me. I got loud about it, obviously. You know how I get. Would people rather see a V-shaped recovery or a slow grind? I would personally rather see somewhat of a V-shaped recovery followed by a Stuber fib setup. But honestly, the only V-shaped recovery I would be very bullish on, it wouldn't be from these levels, honestly, unless we break this RSI divergence as well. But something you guys have to understand is, again, let's pretend this weekly chart is a 1 minute chart or a 5 minute chart. Let's pretend this is something I'm actually going to trade with leverage right here. What would I be looking at right now? Hey, we broke this high. I want a shorter retest. Where is that retest? Boom. What do you think is going to happen to the echo chamber on Twitter and stuff if we end up trading back up to these levels around 104, 106K? What do you think is going to be happening? Everyone is going to be so insanely bullish if we get that, and myself included. It is going to be hard to fight that feeling. But if the RSI is doing something like this, where it's just getting to this line again, I would start to have very serious concerns that we were taking a very deep dive. Very deep. I still think we can go deeper with this move, but like this kind of a move, I don't know if I want to really bring up the levels because, well, no, you know what? I'm going to. If we get something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bear market, like I've already been talking about. And if it is a bear market or going to get bear market prices, guess where my Stuber fib is? Again, I treat the weekly just like I treat the 1 minute, just like I treat the 5 minute. If this was a pullback on a 1 minute chart, I wouldn't be looking to long right now. Why would I? It's in the middle of nowhere. I would be looking to long down here. This will change if the price goes higher, right? I'm not saying we have to go down there. That's just my ideal trade setup from a structure perspective. So can it happen on the weekly? 100% it can. Anyone who's been in this market for more than a full cycle knows that Bitcoin can do a lot of things that you don't think it can. And anyone who's going to say that can't or won't happen again is probably wrong. Yes, this cycle's different. There's bigger players in it. Every cycle has exponentially larger players in it. That's nothing new. You need that to have similar price action. And again, guys, if you don't believe me, if you really think this cycle's going to be any different, you don't think it's possible that we get to that 786 fib pocket, let's just check some previous market cycles. Let's start at the beginning. Let's go back. Oh, what do you know? Stuber fib pocket. That's your bear market. Boom. Next bull market. Boom, what do you know? Just below the 786, find support. Let's go from that bear market bottom. Oh, what do you know? The next one was right at the 786. You get my point. Sam, I do remember in 2021 when everyone was calling for 100K, and full disclosure, I fit in there. I jokingly said 69,420, and that was so incredibly close if it was not pinpoint accurate. But I actually thought it would be closer to 100. I thought maybe even a blow off top a little past, but yeah, that turns out I was a cycle off on that. Honestly, like I don't know. I don't even think this cycle goes much above 100. Like I said, I think the top is in, but happy to be wrong on that. So notice how even that very micro structure, right, on the 1 minute, we could even call it right here, technically. Yeah, even the 1 minute. We kept holding, actually right here would have broke one, but it was the 5 minute I was looking at, right? So just notice how important that very micro analyzing is, right? Now we have a series, we just set another lower low. So like I said, that was going to be our lower high, right? Like I said, we had this low, lower high. Notice where we ended up finding resistance. Actually, just to really blow your mind here, let's really zoom in. Check this out. I'm sure you know what I'm going for with this. There's our structure break. Would you look at that? Like I said, once you start to see them, you just start to see them all the time when you get those little structure breaks. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, imagine the bulls at a new all-time high with the diverging RSI. Yeah, exactly. It's just something to watch for, right? It's one of those things. It does not have to happen, but there are things on the radar, just like I was saying before. Like that whole double top bearish divergence on the weekly did not have to happen, but I was ready for it, and it did happen. A lot of people just told me that can't happen. It won't happen. Well, now what's your plan that it did happen? Now people are asking me, well, what should I do now? You were right. What should I do? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what you should do because it happened already. Yeah, exactly, Mihao. If you're the one saying something different to what the population wants to hear, then people will give you hate. Experience this in your job. Yeah, exactly. Adrian, I know I just keep going to you because I know that you noticed it. But like last time when I got very bearish when Trump was just starting to talk about crypto, I uh, I started losing followers for a while, and all I did was pointed out that there was a bearish divergence on the RSI, and I thought we were gonna nuke. We started nuking, and then I started losing followers. It was like, but I'm right. But people didn't want to hear it. I don't know if I'll offload much more spot on a dead cat bounce. It depends. If we get that exact divergence set up on the weekly, like I was talking about, I would heavily consider getting out of what I can as far as my higher risk stuff. I would still be holding most of my Bitcoin just in case. Like I did sell some. What was it? I think I sold about 15% of my stuff up here near the highs for this exact reason, because what I was expecting, what I prepared for did start to happen, so I started offloading some up here. But not much. Honestly, I still hold most of my stuff. I feel the downside just like everybody else does. But the thing is, I'm still willing to trade it to the downside. That's the thing. So many people think it's like against their religion if they trade to the downside. It's fine if you want to make money to the downside. Just notice this little trend line to watch for if we bounce. Boop. I don't know if that would happen. Again, just something maybe worth watching. This one is really just hugging that pocket. Ah, piss. So yeah, even if you wanted to catch a micro trend, like obviously it's higher risk to just smash a short right into this breakout, but at least you do have some sort of a lower high that's nearby. So if you wanted to chase the trend, that's kind of the structure I'd be looking at for keeping a tight stop loss. But obviously it's better to wait for an actual retrace. But sometimes you don't get them. Quite often when we get a structure break like this, I'll just start a small position and then have laddered entries at my Stuber fib. In this case, I never, because I'm already in a Bitcoin short anyways. But that is something that I'll do quite often when we start to see weakness like that. That's actually the exact reason, you guys, and some of you guys might remember I was talking about this on stream way back here. I know I had pointed out that we were starting to look weak at this level. Maybe it was on my Telegram actually. But I'm still in a quarter of my short from way back here, and it's that exact type of structure. It is literally a 5-minute lost this kind of structure. That's why I'm still short from 101.6k. So just to show you how powerful those micro structure breaks like that can be. It's not like I'm waiting with a whole position with something like that, right? I'm obviously paying myself quickly on most of my position as a scalp in a case like that. I'm not playing the 5-minute chart expecting it to play out on a weekly time frame. It's just that's why I left some open, just in case. Initially, it was just a hedge to the long that I was in, but turned into a beautiful position. I will consider adding to my spot bags if we drop towards like 63. Because at this point, since we dropped out of this range, this was the previous range. Not really anything in between. So yeah, I'd basically be pulling my fib from the bottom of that range to the top of this range. Again, if this was a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, I would be looking for a long entry somewhere in here. Doesn't mean we have to get there. That's just kind of my ideal setup. If that drops, then unfortunately I'm looking at something like this. Then I'm going for the full swing. And in this case, it's a full cycle. But I don't think we would ever just drop right through that. I think it's very obvious we would get a strong bounce from this level if we even drop down here. And mark my words, as soon as we see some upside, a nice recovery for a day or two, every influencer out there is going to be saying the bottom is in, that was a bear trap, blah, blah, blah. You're going to see it happen all over again. And that doesn't necessarily mean the bottom's in. It means that you're getting some sort of a bounce off a very obvious level of strength. Nothing more. I mean, it could turn into more, but to just assume that just because you get some sort of a V-shaped recovery on a 5-minute, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that the weekly chart found support temporarily. From there, you have to see what actually happens with the structure. Stu, can you draw your best arrow with the drawing tool? Smallio has set a high bar. Draw my best arrow? Like the path?
No, the brush.
Use the brush and draw an arrow?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty nice one.
Yeah, but smile at it once without realizing. Most perfect arrow ever.
That's
and that
funny.
was on a touchpad. Yeah. He didn't even realize it. And we've been blown away. We was like so quiet on the stream.
Yeah. That's funny. Not bad, not bad. I've never been known for my artistic abilities. I more so like to eat the crayons rather than draw with them. I'm one of those. Just kidding. But yeah, not very good at art. Do appreciate the colors though. Hey, look at this. Look at this call you made there. Unfortunately, never quite got my next entry, but physics. Just got the 786 one. Like I said, I never. Oh, there it is. We watched it live. Remember, I was just saying that we got a lower buy. I was expecting a lower sell to go with this. and just printed. So just a little bit of added confluence to go with this fib setup. And again, every setup can lose trades, but yeah, basically if this gets invalidated, actually I'm even going to tighten up my stop and remove that other entry. If we get above the highs here, I'm not having my stop loss up here anymore. I'm going to have it above these highs here. I don't really want to see us invalidate both these sell signals if it's going to continue to the downside aggressively. I'll leave a little wiggle room, but go like 1793. Oh yeah, would you look at that? The Algo Master did pick one up on the 1 minute. So that's one of those times, right, where we had we had one fib lining up inside another fib. What do we call it? Stubception? Stuberception? Something like that? A stuber fib and a stuber fib. But yeah, that would have been a perfect entry there. I obviously never caught that one, but still okay with what I did catch. Watch this guy for a little bit. I'll bounce around a little. Let's see, Algo Master. Oh, a big one. Algo Master still printing a big one from where we got that little crazy wick this morning. AI charting tools. So obviously we just had a new daily open 15 minutes ago. Still above the weekly open. Still look for something like this on Bitcoin. Still just chasing the price. I'm still treating this, like I said, ever since we broke this structure. Ever since that just confirmed this as our pivotal point, right? So at some point, if we bounce, like even right now, technically we broke some structure here. So technically, if we do one of these, I think we would start to struggle up at this level. Yeah, exactly. Fibs help a lot with the psychological part of taking profits. I agree 100%. I need levels in front of my face. If it's up to my discretion, I'm going to get greedy and not do it. I need them on there. And yeah, Sam makes a good point. Eventually, you just start to see them. You don't even have to pull them. You just do if you want to show a screenshot of it, basically, or like show other people what you're looking at. But really, you can just kind of tell, right? Even this one that I just kind of eyeballed got very close there on the pullback. Like it just, you start to see them everywhere. I don't think it quite, yeah, it never quite made it, but you get the idea. Even right here would be an obvious one I can see. Yeah, 786, boom. Yeah, you could look across the street, find the levels on your neighbor's house. Different size windows, different size friends, different size family, trees, pets, buildings, you name it. You start to see them. God damn ganja god, that looks tasty. Getting there even today, being away most of the day and jumping into a chart after that 80k retrace. I looked at the 5 minute, was like, oh, that must be a Stuber pocket. Yeah, see, there you go. It just starts, and the more you see them, the more you're going to see them, right? That's why I know sometimes that I show them late or whatever, but I still think it's important because, and realistically, sometimes I enter a position I don't have time to share it before it's already played out or whatever. But it's still important to show them because the more you see it, the more you're going to see it. All right, guys. I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. Hopefully, you guys found this stream useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you're interested in joining the MDX Algo community, gain access to all my favorite indicators on TradingView, and also getting access to these live streams put on by not only myself, but also a handful of other coaches with much more experience than myself, even. So if that sounds good to you, there is a link down below for that in the description. Also, I've recently started a private Telegram channel where I share some of my trade ideas, scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, my general thoughts on the market, kind of a place to keep all my thoughts together. It's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my new sign up link. You can find details about that down below as well. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.